This is the Aston Martin Heritage Podcast with Gary Taylor.
Hello and welcome to the latest Aston Martin Heritage Podcast, and thank you for joining us. For this edition, the podcast is at RS Williams Limited. Started by Richard Williams in 1968, it has become one of the world's leading specialists with vast experience in Aston Martin servicing, engineering and race preparation, built on a staggering attention to detail and very high quality of work. We wanted to find out what drives RS Williams in their pursuit of excellence, their history and, of course, the legacy of Richard Stewart Williams himself. So around the table is Neil Thompson, the Managing Director, and Jacqueline Menzies, a Director of the company and the eldest daughter of Richard. Also in attendance is Steve Waddingham, the AML historian. With so much material, we are splitting the podcast in two. So the next episode involves me and Steve walking around the workshops and the showroom talking to Adam Johnson and other team members. Hope you enjoyed this first episode being an insight into this great company.
Growing the passion, sharing the stories. The Aston Martin Heritage Podcast.
I do see your cars appearing, should we say, in other dealers for sale. There may be it for sale, and it would say RSW prepped, 7-litre conversion. It seems to be a seal of honour, a badge of honour. And I think in my mind, it's where you have perhaps built your reputation over the years is through the attention to detail and the preparation. It's very unusual for another, shall we say, an Aston Martin dealer, not an official one, but selling a car, and to recognise your work. Do you think that's fair?
Totally. I think it's used a lot in other dealers. It's used in auction houses. When they advertise cars that come into auction, they always use our name, Aston Martin RSW history or Aston Martin RSW engine. Different conversions. It's used a lot, yeah. It's a plus point. And I think it's something that people want to advertise.
I think in my mind, I'm just looking at it for today because we like to look at the history of the company. I think it always seems to be the 7-litre V8 upgrade, if you like. I think that seems to be in your mind.
That's quite a big point, the 7-litre, but I think the 6-cylinder engines undoubtedly, there are some different configurations that we do on 6-cylinders that are very good. And that's, I think it's a big plus as well. People use that a lot.
Well, it was formed back in 1968. I think that was right, wasn't it? It was, yeah. And you've made a note here that Neil, your father met Richard when he left his business card on the seat of a 1958 Mark III jobhead, yeah?
Indeed. And we still have it in the family now.
Oh, really?
In the family now. 68. They bought it in 68. It's now, how many years is that? So it's quite a few years.
Quite a few.
So it's now owned by my brother and myself. So it's been in the family still. We use it for family weddings, and it's just down the road in storage.
I read somewhere that he wanted to work with cars, and I think he applied with to AC and to Aston Martin, and I think Aston Martin were first to reply. I think it might have been John Wire to pick him up and took him on. Yeah. Strange when you think about it, that destiny could have totally changed if AC came.
Yes, and completely by chance. He left school. My father left school in 1961, took up an apprenticeship with Aston's at Feltham. Then he continued that at Newport Pagnell working for John Wire. He left there in 1964 and worked for Peter Sellers, running his road cars and his race team. And then he set up his business under the railway arches in Brixton in 1968. So, yeah, a long history. And then we moved to bigger railway arches. I say we, obviously I wasn't born, in 1977, and gone from strength to strength from there.
Let's go back to the Peter Sellers. He was very well known for loving his cars. Was he a great Aston Martin enthusiast? Do you think?
He was. I don't know too much.
I think Richard just really worked on all of his cars.
All of his cars, yeah. Lots of race cars, lots of different models. He had a DB4 GT, the famous car that we've seen in the movies. He had an Old Min, which was an Austin.
Yeah, an Austin Heavy.
Which him and Spike Milligan owned, or shared together, shall we say.
Yeah, I think there was a story that Dad said that Peter Sellers sold that car to Spike Milligan, and then he felt that he wasn't looking after it well enough, so he sent Dad to go and pick it back up, and the man was not allowed
to pick it up, I think.
He was not allowed to have that car because he wasn't caring for it properly.
And then Peter Sellers, and I didn't realise this. I say I knew he was a car enthusiast. Peter Sellers Racing Team.
Yes, Dad ran.
Was that
ran
a
the racing
professional
club.
team? Well, it would be. I think Richard was there, but
I think Richard lived above his flat, didn't he?
Yes, he
In the
did.
flat above the house.
Yeah, he did live above the flat, in a flat above the house, and he ran the race team. It was as professional as it was at the time, and obviously Dad was a perfectionist, so would have been top of his game.
So I think that set Richard on the route to his love of cars and his enthusiasm for Aston Martin. And then I think the Peter Sellers racing team was folded, didn't exist.
Yeah.
And Jacqueline, I think, as you said, he set up at Cold Harbour Lane, Brixton.
Cold Harbour Lane.
What year was that? What year would that have been? Well, it would have been 68.
68. And then we moved in 77 to Padfield Road.
So we had two arches we had one arch initially in Cold Harbour Lane, just in an alley down there. Took the next door over and expanded to there. Then obviously outgrew that, and then moved to Padfield Road.
When did you come in now?
I was there at those arches. I was there in 76, 77.
Sounds quite romantic, but having a business in the railway arches.
In the middle of Brixton.
I suppose they're boutiques now and whatever.
It's all very different now.
All very different now.
It was interesting times.
Yeah, and I think that was the time, obviously, no internet, no social media, and that is how Dad came across Neil, because Mum and Dad used to drive around in the evenings and see Astons on the road and put the business card under the wipers, because that was their form of advertising.
Yes,
and very romantic as well from my mum.
And then Dad became Richard's lawyer, solicitor lawyer.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to go in school holidays to go up there, and I used to go up there for a couple of weeks and enjoyed it, and then got sucked in, and then gave up my studies, and the
rest is history.
Basically, the rest is history. Yeah. So, I mean,
what Astons would he be dealing with?
When I was there in the first arch, we had John Gote's DB4 GT, John and Rachel Gote's DB4 GT, Roger Hart's Tuve 22 XKX, Zagatos.
There's a 3S. I've got a picture of that as well.
I mean, they're just loads. I mean, when you're sort of 16, 17.
The 3S?
Yeah. 16, 17, and we're basically sucked in and going racing at that sort of age. And Richard was very good at putting you in the deep end. It was almost like you'd done it for years, and it was just, there you go, sort it out. So I learned very quickly. And I was driving and looking after Astons at a very young age.
Yeah, and the cars are so special. I know they didn't have the value that they've got now, but I mean, Dad had a DB4 GT Zagato, and we used to go in the back of it. I've got three sisters, and we just used to go in the back where there are no back seats and drive around, and we thought that was normal. But what a fantastic experience.
The very famous car, Dr. Zagato's original car.
Yeah.
Left-hand drive car.
Yes.
Which is a superb car.
So you said earlier, he was handing out to drum up business.
Yeah.
I think having Peter Sellers as a customer, if you like,
also,
helped.
He had a lot of contacts. I think Peter Sellers was very good to him. He had a lot of contacts.
Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and you're handing out some cards, and there was a party atmosphere. I think they were known for parties. Oh, I know, a lot of parties.
Luckily, no record of any of that.
Oh, okay. Not that you're going to speak of.
No, it was good. It was good clientele building, should we say?
What were the conditions like working in the arches?
So different from here. I mean, a different level. But no, I mean, it was a lot of character. It was very sort of old school, very British. It wasn't the cleanest place in the world, but we were perfectionists, and we made the place as clean as we could. We painted it beautifully. There's a picture right behind you there. That's the arches in Pole and Padfield Road.
All right.
And you can see when we painted them beautifully, the floors are done. We tried to make it as best possible.
So the standard was being set then, wasn't it?
I remember.
Straight away.
Yeah.
Jacqueline was brought up that way. I was brought up with Richard at 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
Total
immaculate. You didn't wear your shoes in cars. You didn't eat in cars. Everything was immaculate.
Where did you think there's attention to detail? I wouldn't say OCD, but where do you think?
I would say OCD. I'd say that's exactly the way.
A single child, OCD, and just perfection.
Just absolute perfection.
Were his parents like that?
He was an only child, so I think it kind of got nurtured, the OCD perfectionist tendencies. He could sort of carry on like that. But yeah, everything at home was neat, tidy, lined up. There was no mess. Everything was immaculate. I'm not saying it was easy to live with, but it definitely has left a legacy. And Neil's the same. I'm the same. We've instilled it in everybody. Here is the same.
Yeah, I mean, it shows what we've done now. What we do now, the way we brought up, the way we did things from a very early age.
Yeah.
So, it was amazing.
I bet
it was regardless of. I mean, it didn't matter We had to do it, and you wouldn't send something out unless it was perfect.
No, there's one way,
and
it's immaculate.
It doesn't
and
matter
perfect.
if people moan. You say no, we just do it. We do it. We don't. It doesn't matter if it takes longer or whatever. You do it, and that's it.
I bet his lawn was immaculate.
Oh,
Yeah,
you wouldn't.
the whole place was immaculate.
Were you allowed to walk on it?
And him and Ron Dennis was so alike. I mean, the great story about Ron Dennis. We went down there to repair a car in Saint-Tropez, and the cleaners were capturing the leaves before they hit the ground. And that's just up Richard Street. I mean, it's exactly the same.
No.
Same mentality.
Well, I've been coming here for a number of years, and every time I come here, it is immaculate. And I've never seen anything out of place. And that's brilliant, isn't it? It's what you would want the environment to be that your treasured car comes to, isn't it, really?
I remember us saying as a joke, you could eat your dinner off the floor, and then someone said, you're not allowed to eat around the cars.
Okay. Built up a reputation. The cars were coming in. His first foray into racing, I understand, was some what he called affordable DB4 races, known as the RSW lightweight DB4s.
We did things before that.
Did you? Yeah.
We raced before that. If you look at the thing before, we ran Francois Duret in the Mad Frog in a DB4 GT, Series 5 DB4 actually, in the Classic Championships back in those days, and that was probably, I don't know, 77, is it there? 77, 78, 80?
77.
Yeah,
That
early
sort of era.
70s, I think, maybe.
So that was, we ran a lot of cars, and then John Gautier in his DB4 GT, Roger Hart in DBR1, 2VEV, 22 XKX, Steve O'Rourke, 188 Zagato, and DB4 GT, which is the white-nosed 124. He ran that as well. A lot of cars before we got involved in lightweights. The lightweight DB4s came about a bit after.
Yeah, about 1985.
85-ish probably, yeah. And we built a lot of, probably 12 to 15 lightweights for different clients, and ran a lot of people in that. And that was, they were great days. I think that was some really good AMHT racing. But previous to that, there was some good stuff going on.
I think it's worth talking about the value, isn't it? Because we're all used to these cars now being worth, hundreds of thousands, millions. But back in the 70s, when your dad first started, these were DB5s in hundreds of pounds.
People used to drive to the race on the road and park them outside their houses.
I mean, I think we sold two Zagatos within 2 or 3 days of each other. I think one was 19 and one was £21,000.
Yeah.
And that was the level of a Zagato back in wherever it was in the sort of 70s, 80s.
Which was a lot of money, but compared to what they are now, it's we just wish you had a time machine.
I guess with his attention to detail, OCD, if you like, the racing was going to be a natural development for him, wasn't it? Because that's what demands success, is that attention to detail.
And very involved with Lord Down very early on. So
I was just about to say, because I think that was probably I'm not saying the commercial side of things, because that was happening, but certainly for me and probably for others, Lord Down, Viscount and Down coming in,
definitely
sort of put Richard on more of the map.
Absolutely.
Became more visible.
We ran 2-on-2 for many years for Lord and Lady Down. Yeah. Mike Salmon was a great asset. He drove a lot of cars for us. And he was very closely associated, obviously, with the Downs, because he ran at Le Mans when the Downs owned cars, back at GT40s and stuff at Le Mans, when they had a race scene then. So that was before Richard got involved, and that was back in the 60s.
Right.
So they then took Richard as a sort of place to get the car prepared, and then Michael got involved, and we did very well. We ran a GT40, we ran 2-on-2, we ran a lot of race cars for Michael. And then obviously Le Mans was a big thing. First Le Mans was 78 with a Ducati Lola, and then 79 Ducati Lola. And I went in 79 for the first time to Le Mans.
What was you doing?
Ran the car. I was part of the team.
Just ran the car, yeah.
So I was 19, and we ran the car. And then Martin Pugsley came, and we ran.
What was it like for a 19-year-old doing this sort of thing?
That was the draw. That's why I want to give up everything else. It was fantastic. Motor racing from the time I was 17, right the way through, and it was superb. And then Le Mans, 79, 512 BB in 80, with Simon Phillips and Michael Salmon. And then we ran Nimrod from there.
I'd like to talk about Nimrod, I think, because for me, that a defining moment, because I think prior to that we had Robin Hamilton with his.
Robin developed the cars, and
yeah, he did. But I think he had beforehand he had the
Muncher, which Michael Salmon drove.
Yes, he did.
The famous one when the gear lever came out and he threw it out the window on the Mustang straight.
That's it. Yeah,
and came back. So.
Because being a relative youngster at the time, I knew about the 59 win, and I always associated Aston Martin with Le Mans. And so there was Robin Hamilton with his Muncher in 1977. And I remember, I think I was trying to follow it on teletext. You remember that teletext?
Teletext, yeah.
You're trying to, get the page to turn, wait for it to come up, and Sinclair's ZX81 bring up the information. And of course, when Nimrod came in, for me, that was so exciting, because then it was like, Aston Martin were back at Le Mans. It was a semi-official entry, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
because Robin
was the works, I suppose you could call it the works, and he had pro drivers, and let's just say they had a different sort of mentality to going to Le Mans. They wanted it was a sprint to them, which the car wouldn't do.
Yeah,
and we had a very different mentality, and we had some.
You say we was a Viscount Down. I mean, bought a car. So that's why it's a private entry.
Yeah. Then we developed the car, tested the car, and developed it on our own way. And it was slightly different from the works car, and that proved by the finishes. I mean, the first year, 82, we were fourth in the night behind 3 works Porsches the whole night as an amateur team, and came 7th at Le Mans. First British car home. So
I remember that.
That was fantastic, and that was a great day.
How can I put this? What was wrong with the original car that came in? Why did you feel you had to strip it? And
we had our own ideas about how to go
mentality out of it.
Just our own ideas about how to make things last. The experience we've had over the years of making things last. Just attention to detail again really was the main thing, and that's so important for Le Mans. And we did things differently, and we had a different mentality on what we'd use res-wise. Robin wanted to use with Tiff and people like that. They wanted to use 7,000 revs, and we knew the engine would suffer at that. And we used 6,000. And we just, it was basically the hair. And we went round, and it was fantastic.
I think you continued with the Nimrod, and this is where the Bovis Nimrod came in.
Bovis Nimrod was the year after.
And we have that at the Trust.
Yes,
yes,
right.
we do.
So that was 83.
Yeah. So Bovis was a sponsor.
A sponsor, a customer. Yeah. He basically owned a Zagato. He owned 188 L, the Zagato, straight headlight Zagato. Malcolm Paris, and he was Bovis Homes, and he then became a sponsor, with obviously Lord Down still owning the car. And then we had Bovis backing. Well, obviously Pace was 82 was Pace, which was Victor Gauntley's company. Pace Petroleum.
Yes.
And then 83 was Bovis, and 84 was Bovis.
Did Lord Down, he wasn't just based with Aston Martins? Did he have a wider interest in other cars? It did seem to be always Aston Martin.
I think it was Aston mainly, I think.
Yeah. It does tend to add your skin, doesn't it?
Yeah. The GT40, they ran, which we then, the same car that Michael crashed in, we ran again for Michael later on, for Lord Down, back in the 80s, or late 70s.
You mentioned the crash in 84. There was a serious crash where both cars.
Both cars. I mean, John Sheldon.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, it was a dreadful time. It was John had a puncture going into the kink at high speed. The car then hit barriers and went in the air, hit some trees, broke in half. The second car went underneath the wreckage and spun on the Marseille, just bouncing off the barriers. So both cars went out, obviously. But the sad thing was it killed a marshal. The front of the car killed a marshal, which was a terrible shame. And obviously John was badly burnt.
Yeah, that I remember that time I was 8, but yeah, that hit everybody very hard. I remember Dad being absolutely devastated about that. I remember seeing John afterwards.
John was a close friend. He was the dentist.
He was a really good friend.
It was Carol's dentist.
Yeah, Mum had known him for ages, but yeah, and I remember seeing him afterwards, and he had skin grafts and gloves on, and yeah, it was tragic and a really bad time. It hit everyone very hard.
Were you following around, going around with your father to these events? Did you appreciate what was going on?
So we knew what was going on because the stress levels were high at home. But
Jacqueline used to come to some of the club events.
Yeah, I remember very clearly coming to the club events with my sisters. We had a Winnebago. I think Maggie, Neil's wife, used to cook at the time, and we used to roll down the hills at Brands Hatch and Silverstone, and then look at the wreaths that we used to win for the cars. And we've got pictures of us the four girls, me and my three sisters, being little next to the cars. Yeah, it was fun times. But yes, we did come around.
Quite interesting. On our new website, there's going to be a picture of Jacqueline at a very young age next to Tuve.
Yes.
Which will be featured in the website.
So. Yeah. But yeah, we got into the habit of watching to see if the car was coming round again and again, and spotting them. So it was a time, again, before the internet, before anything digital. So you literally had to stand there and see if the car came round again and what position it was in.
The worry if you didn't hear anything, it should be here by now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty obsessive as well, and I timed every lap. So I was out there for 24 hours. Every time I went past, I pressed the button. And that's the way you just keep going and going.
What was Richard like over a race weekend, a Le Mans weekend?
Very focused. I mean, everyone was so focused.
Yeah.
It was.
I've read, and now I can't remember, it was like an F1 principle. He tended to find that the race weekend was relatively relaxing because all the work was done beforehand.
That wasn't our experience.
That might be a bit more flippant.
Relaxing.
Le Mans, certainly at our level, no, it wasn't. No. It was always a development, and it was always,
I guess it's preparation though, wasn't it? As much as you could do, things were prepared.
Oh, totally. I mean, you go testing, you prepare, but obviously Le Mans week is always going to be a busy one. We went Sunday, and then we night practice Wednesday, night practice Thursday, prepare the car Friday, work all night Friday generally, then do a race Saturday, Sunday. So you didn't really sleep 3 days.
Yeah.
And it was pretty full on. Then you had to clear up at the end. And we were a very low-key team with very limited people. And it was all down to us.
All hands on deck.
Hands on deck.
Yeah.
Low-key team, but I think you punched above your weight, didn't you?
Totally. I mean, certainly in 84. In 82.
82, yeah.
82. That was special. I mean, to have 3 works Porsches in front of us and then the Porsche team coming down to watch our pit stops was crazy.
Oh, really?
And we went down and we had a Pickford removal truck that the car was in the back of. And it listed at about 10 degrees the whole way down. It was done on a shoestring, the whole thing. When probably their catering budget would pay for our
entire budget, yeah.
And it was nuts, absolutely nuts. And so that was great. And the only reason we came 7th, we had a Valgo, so we were on the 6.5 cylinders, 7 cylinders, and that was the reason that we dropped back.
I think one of the other things that RS Williams are well known for at that time was to be commissioned to build the 4 sanctioned 2 Aston Martin DB4 GT Zagatos to use the remaining chassis numbers. I think that's right, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean we're talking late 80s.
Was that from Aston Martin asking Richard Williams to do that? Was that Victor Gauntlet?
It was Aston Martin with Victor.
With Victor.
Aston Martin with Victor. I mean, it was
same thing.
It was same thing. So it was Victor at the time,
and also with Zagato.
Zagato involved, and we did the same process. We built the cars as rolling chassis. They went to Zagato and were bodied and trimmed and painted in Zagatos, and that was during the period of 89 Le Mans. But we built them in 87, 88 at Brixton, and then we moved to Cobham and finished the cars here. And they were launched here on the grass.
Oh, actually here?
Yeah.
Because I think I mentioned to Steve when we were just talking outside when we came in, this place is known as Protec House.
Protec House, yeah.
I know we're probably jumping ahead of ourselves a little bit, but
89 was Protec. Well, it was Protest Engineering.
Protest Engineering, and that's in Milton Keynes, wasn't it?
That was Milton Keynes. That was the race.
And this place was what at that time?
Contact lens factory.
Oh, okay.
And then developed it into this, yeah.
In 1989, the business was mothballed effectively, and Dad and Neil went to work for Proteus Technology, running the Aston Martin Group C Works race team. So we didn't really do anything with the company. It was based at our house in Cobham. We had a barn there, and I think we had maybe 2 people working there.
Why would he mothball it? Because he was approached to deal with the AMRs.
It might have been a short-term thing, so he wasn't stupid.
And you think, I can't do.
This is a race team.
You couldn't do both, and I think that is the attention to detail thing. You can't.
We closed down. I mean, you couldn't do it. So the team was massive. I mean, the AMR1 team, the works team we probably had 60 employees. So it was a much bigger operation.
So did the employees up and went to the...
Some of them.
Some did.
Martin Pugsley and Tim Lewis both left and started their own company at the time.
Yeah.
They didn't follow. I went, Richard went, and a few of the other boys from work went. And then obviously when that folded in 1990, we came back to Cobham and then got this place and sorted this place out.
Why do you think well, I think the word is that the reason why it folded in 1990, because I think, Ford had just bought Aston Martin, they just bought Jaguar.
Well,
Yeah,
Jaguar,
that's
they
right.
owned Jaguar and Aston Martin together.
Yeah,
and they competed against each other, and I think it was something.
And I think they were saying about engine changes were coming for the next year for the V6.
Yeah, but we had a design car. We had a new car. We had a new car already
You
designed.
was ready to go.
Yeah, we had a car ready to go, yeah. And we had a designer lined up.
I guess there was a settlement, and then RSW started again. Yeah.
Well, it was never stopped. The company was never stopped. It was still a company.
Just mothballed, just parked to one side.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
we had to probably to make the decision to buy or to prepare this place. So this took some time. So we worked up the house, at Richard's house. We took, I think, 4 or 5 people there and carried on the company there for a bit while this was built, and then came here.
That was unusual times because we'd been used to Dad driving to Milton Keynes and not being here a lot, and all of a sudden he was working in the barn at home, which was unusual. It was a good thing that we found this place up the road here.
Okay. When did you become more involved in the business?
I think when we
Did you want to become?
Yes, definitely. I've always had a love of Aston's, always been interested. I helped in the accounts department, which my mother runs, or still is active in, and that was at their house in Cobham. So I used to just help, data inputting, that kind of thing, and then just got a bit more interested in bringing it a bit more up to date. So getting the internet, for example, stop typing on normal typewriters, maybe get an electronic typewriter and then maybe get a computer, that kind of thing. And then internet banking, all that kind of more technology-based stuff that Dad wasn't interested in.
Because all his focus was
on cars.
Was in the cars, and then you say we need a computer to do the admin.
Yeah. Didn't care.
He never used one. He never
used a computer right until the last days. Never used a computer. Made us print out all the emails. So yeah, not really into the technology. So yeah, I did that. And I worked there with Mum and another lady, Kathy, who's still with us in the accounts department, doing, like I said, admin data inputting. And then when we moved to Copse Road, where we are now, I used to come down and answer the phone a bit. But before we had proper phone systems, lost to several customers by cutting them off, got shouted at a lot, probably got sacked 2 or 3 times. But yeah, just generally helped a bit whilst also doing some of the accounts and the admin stuff. I was at university at the time, so I was doing management studies and economics for my degree. And so it was just kind of a natural progression that then I did more and more. And then when Dad retired in 2015, I then became much more involved.
So you moved here, and what was one of the first things you did here when you opened up shop again?
Well, we had to build the whole place.
Yeah.
So that was quite extensive work. There was a lot going on whilst we were also still trying to run the business and work. So there was a crossover where we had this and the house in Cobham. Then when we came here, we had restoration projects, but nothing like the scale of what we've got now. I think we've got 16, 17 restorations on the go at the moment. We would have had 2 at a time then.
What happened to those Sanction 2 Zagatos? I think did you finish them off here, did you?
We finished them off here. We launched them on the lawn here. That's our main picture and reception.
Is it?
So yeah, that was a big kudos.
Oh, I saw the picture, the 4
That's
Sanction
right,
2
lined up.
Zagatos. That's quite impressive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we just concentrated on building our client base.
There was
some motor racing quite a lot. I mean, that's when the lightweights came in. We're still running cars in, quite a lot of cars, and then lightweights got more and more into the 90s, and we were doing a lot of development of engines. We, for the first time since we've been in business, we had a dynamometer here, which we never had at Brixton. And that was the dynamometer we used for the AMR1 project, which we then installed here. And that was a must. That was a must, and that was great for development of engines.
Let's talk about development engines, because we kicked off this podcast by saying if there's one thing that you could identify RSW with are your engines, your upgrades. So
that's a big thing, but I think it's the overall business that does restorations beautifully, all that sort of stuff. But the engines are an important bit. Yeah. They've always been incredibly reliable. They're basically turnkey packages that don't leak oil. They work beautifully. We stick by our engines. I mean, you say you can guarantee an engine. If something went wrong in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, and it was down to the engine, they don't go wrong, basically. So if they do go wrong, we would do something about it, regardless of guarantee. And that's our name to the engine. They're beautifully engineered. They're cosmetically beautiful. They're all done to original specification. And the great thing about all the engine conversions is they're reversible, which nobody really understands. Everything we do, if you went to 4.2, 4.7 litre for 6 cylinders, or 7 litre, 5.7, they can all go back to standard.
We spoke briefly with Adams, and we talked about modifications to cars and say, where would you sort of draw the line if somebody wanted sat-nav and this sort of thing? And he did say that they do this sort of thing, but you can reverse it.
Reverse it, and it's discreet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I don't like aircon particularly, because I can't do it very well without disguising it. But we do, to a certain extent, disguise it. Stereos, that sort of stuff, all hidden. Any modifications are hidden. I mean, basically, the cars that we produce handle and perform very well, but they look very original. We don't go to flare wheel arches. We don't put like Cobra rims on. We keep everything very standard.
If a customer wanted that, would you probably do it?
I'm pretty strong at saying no.
Do you think? Are you sure, sir, madam?
I do. I do push them sometimes.
We try and guide them to make the right decision.
They probably wouldn't come to you in the first place.
They're probably not.
They accept our views, I think. And, we've had people want to spray cars in funny colours and trim them in funny colours, and we've said no, it's
not here.
Really. And then sort of very sort of discreetly try and sort of change their minds.
Talk about the engines. We talked about Sanction 2, but I understand you also were involved, where you got involved in the build of the Sanction 3 Zagatos as well. Was it called Sanction 3? Wasn't it?
Sanction 3,
Two factor. Why did that come? Well, I tend to think, why did that come about? I think we all know why.
It was Victor again. Victor and Peter. Victor and Richard again. And there were...
Was there a demand for that? Do you think? Clearly was.
All four Sanction 2s and Sanction 3s are all pre-sold. Well, not pre-sold. As soon as we announced them, they were sold. It wasn't if someone commissioned us to do them. We did them, and then they were sold as soon as we announced them.
And I'm pretty confident they come back to you, do they?
Most of them, yeah.
There were some come back?
I know with the Sanction 3s, there was one here last week. The other Sanction 2s, there's one in Germany that we sold. There's one in the States. There's various cars around.
Where do you see the company today? What's its main thrust? Is it still restoration? How have you seen the business change over the years?
We've definitely gone towards more the restoration side of things, but we still do a lot of engines. Obviously, that's an important part. The restoration's taken over quite a lot more because of the demand. We're selling a lot more cars that are basically sold as restored cars. So the restoration isn't particularly for a client; it's a sold finished product. So I'll source a car and then sell the car as a restored car. So it will be a DP5, we find the donor, and then someone will buy the finished product, and he will then specify the colours, the interior trim, the specification of engine during the build, and people enjoy that. And it's a big journey that people love.
Yeah, and they come on it with us, so they're invited to come down here, have a look, talk to the engineers, see the dyno. We have a USB of how it's gone, they get a book at the end, all that kind of thing. So they're very much invested and involved in it.
A lot of people enjoy that more than actually the car.
At the end.
And then buy something else. And then, put that aside, let's do something else, because I enjoyed that so much. It's an 18-month project. And they love doing it. They love choosing colours. I mean,
I think people...
After your spec.
Steve and I, we spoke about other things. I mean, you just want to be loved sometimes. And you just, it's the attention rather than just looking at the, you're being appreciated. You're being valued.
Understand the passion as well. The passion of all the staff and me and Jacqueline is amazing, and that comes across. And
I think to come down and talk to the people who are building your car, it's a brilliant thing.
Sounds like a bit like the old days of Newport Pagnell, Steve, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's since we first started making cars, we've always had this close relationship with owners and customers buying cars. But, until someone invents a time machine, you can't go back in time and buy a brand new DB5. And, if you had done, you'd have chosen your colours and probably would have come to the factory to see it. So this sort of thing is the nearest that you'll ever get to that, isn't it? It's the idea of, recreating a car as you want it to be with some guidance from the team here.
So guidance is important to be original. That's the most important thing. Originality is the most important thing. And the other thing we do as well is, obviously, we do the engines beautifully and they're reversible. If we're doing a body, I absolutely want to keep the original body as much as possible. We won't be just changing the body regardless of it's a bit thin here, whatever. We change sections. We try and keep it.
You try to keep as much as the original car.
Yeah.
And with the engines, we recently the water pumps, or recently the oil pumps. We keep all the oil castings that the car was built with. And that's so important. and we don't scrap blocks ever. So I think we've had one block that wasn't repairable in all the years, but we repair all the 600 blocks and reuse them because of the number.
It must be a great pleasure when, not so much for you when the job is complete, the car is done, so it's been in for a full rebuild or restoration, and today's the day the client, the customer is picking it up. That must be a magic moment, isn't it, the handover?
They enjoy it very much, yeah.
And we're really keen for our clients to drive the cars. They're not museum pieces just because of the values of them. You want to appreciate how brilliant they actually are. You need to go on the road and drive.
That's interesting because, Steve, we've done a few of these podcasts, and what we always come across is that people that we interview, they say, we want you to drive these cars. Drive these. Somebody said, drive the wheels off it. Just use these things.
Well, you can't appreciate the mechanical engineering that's gone into it unless you drive.
Things like the dyno. The most stress the engine will ever see is on the dyno, and they're bomb-proof, the engines. So they get in the car, they're so under stress compared with the dynamometer. And the other thing that we do, which is, I think, pretty unique, is that Richard used to, and I do, 350 to 400 miles in every car that's restored, and use them as your own, and just lock them and make sure they all work properly. Mm-hmm. And the cars are superb, and they're totally sorted before they get to the client. There's no development with the old days. It was development with the client, or at Aston's mainly. But no, I mean, we make the cars perfect.
I think one of my favourite memories of last year, and you know what I'm going to say at this point, the three of us were on the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone.
That was amazing.
Taking part in the 110 car parade of around Silverstone, celebrating 110 years. And you two guys were in the DB4 GT Zagato, which is downstairs, which, it
was on straight patch.
Yeah, it's beyond, you can't imagine what that looks like in a rear view mirror, what it sounded like. And I was driving one of the continuation DB5s and on cross-ply tyres, fighting to keep the thing in a straight line. But with you two shouting at me to get out of the way.
That was an absolute privilege to be able to go in that amazing car and to be on that parade. And it was
it was a great
credit
time.
To the company as well. And we were delighted to be asked.
Well, I'm glad you weren't behind me because I was in the A3.
It was amazing. Amazing. I'll never, ever forget that. But if only I could... If you could screenshot what I can see in my mind now, view of that blue car.
And the sound.
The sound was amazing.
It was unbelievable.
I think we definitely made an impression at the F1 circuit because basically all the F1 cars are boringly quiet. And we had a very noisy car.
And it was quite a shock, wasn't it? I remember being shocked at how many people were there watching, because I kind of thought we'd have a handful of people in the stadium watching. And
it was quite amazing. And all the marshals who must see the F1 cars all the time and amazing races, they were standing still, open-mouthed. Yeah, it was quite a thing to be involved in. Yeah. So, and also when they said parade, that wasn't my idea of a parade. We were driving very fast.
Wasn't in the briefing, was it?
So looking to wrap this up, I just something that caught my eye. I know you said you dealt with the continuation programs, but is this right? You've dealt with 28 DB4 GTs, 23 DB4 GT Zagatos, and 28 Bond DB5s. That's an incredible number of continuation cars, isn't it?
Well, the engines.
The engines.
Build the engines for the cars. Yeah.
Well, you know the joke, Gary. We only built 19 DB4 GT Zagatos, and there's only 100 left. It's always that's been a kind of gag, isn't it? Really, but they are iconic. I mean, the word icon gets overused, isn't it, nowadays? Yeah. But the cars we're talking about are all iconic, aren't they?
Yeah. And I think most of the important Heritage Aston Martins have been through our workshop and continue to do so.
Yeah. I think we've looked after or seen 18 of the 19 Zagatos original Zagatos.
Do you get much involved in racing, or are you in the preparation for?
We're running some cars this year.
Where's that?
Revival, running 124R, which is basically the Stone lightweight GT.
You say we're running. Are you prepping the car?
Prepping the car. The prep car now, and we're going to run the car at Goodwood and at Le Mans Classic next year. We've obviously prepared an awful lot of engines for race cars that are racing for all different events, but mainly Goodwood. I think there's 6 GTs in the Stone Trophy, and I think we've done 5 of the engines, so that's not bad.
How far do you look ahead? I mean, we all know that a full restoration of a car is going to take 2 years, 18 months, 3 years, whatever. You're looking towards you're talking about Le Mans Classic for next year for 25.
25.
How far do you, in your mind, on your calendar, you're looking ahead?
They're key events that obviously people want to do, and that car, Goodwood Revival, is an important event, and the next Le Mans Classic.
So you always know,
we're looking for that. And then the business-wise, I mean, we're always getting more and more work, and I'm going to Monaco next week, and we're going to buy maybe 3 DB4s for restoration, which means that the workshop will be
even busier.
And our workshop director, they will leave in a coffin.
I think he's going to be delighted.
With RSB as being a success as you are, strikes me you're very busy, which is lovely. You have a lot of projects, you have a lot of restorations. How do you manage to fit servicing requirements and rebuilds in? Can you, if I came in or a customer comes in where I said I've got a DB4 and I want to lock it serviced or rebuilt, how do you fit in?
The first thing is the service department is a different side to it. So we have two separate people, restoration teams and service department. The service side of it, we're flexible. We can do things. We're obviously very, very busy, but we always jump if someone wants a car quickly. Or we've got a Segato came in today. The guy's doing the Monte Carlo V Rally next week. He's only decided that last week, and we booked it in and did it. So
generally, the answer is yes, we can.
You can. I mean, my answer is always yes. Whether that goes down well or down below, I don't know. But no, I mean, restoration-wise, we can be flexible as well. We have restorations that are important, but not as important as a new one that might be important for a client to get done quickly or whatever. So we can be flexible. We have a lot of flexibility. We have a very good team. We work incredibly hard. People work a lot of overtime if need be, and we get things done. And that's the motor racing sort of ethos, if you like, that everything's possible. You work all night if you need be when you're motor racing, and it's not, we don't do that here, but we always, things are always...
You aim to fit fit the customer rather than they fit in with you.
No, and I generally try and keep everyone happy.
Pat, how do you feel your business has changed over the years and what's coming forward? We're looking at sustainable fuels.
We've run sustainable fuels. We actually ran my V8, which was our development car, and I think Stephen Archer drove that car at the event, the 110 event at Silverstone. We ran that on synthetic fuel, and we've dynoed a lot of engines on synthetic fuel. The whole of Goodwood Revival and members meeting is running synthetic fuel, so the DB4 GT will run that.
We look a lot at our working practices to make sure they're sustainable. So we're looking at our energy consumption, solar panels, how we use and recycle materials, that kind of thing. But I think we are the definition of sustainability. I mean, these cars are from 60, 70 years old, and they're original and authentic. So I think that speaks for itself.
And to maintain these cars, to deal with these cars, you need people, you need staff.
Yeah.
How difficult, and I think it is an industry-wide problem anyway, in the broad terms, how difficult or how much of a challenge is it to find suitable apprentices and technicians?
The technician one is we've had, most of the staff have been here for 25 to 30 years.
Yeah.
And I think we have a wonderful place to work because it's very exciting. Every day is different, and different things come in. It's not a boring job on your local Mazda dealer or Honda dealer. And
I think we still retain the family ethos. We look after, we know everybody's families, we know who the kids are, we look after our staff. They're our biggest asset and they're well appreciated. And
the apprentices, we've actually had 2 or 3 apprentices that have actually approached us and want to come and work for us. And we haven't advertised. They've come to us and told us about themselves. They're into cars. One of the apprentices built a Mini when he was with his dad when he was 12, I think, and still got the same car.
I remember Adam, when we saw Adam downstairs, he said he went to Richard and said, I want to work for you.
Yeah, he did.
Well,
Perhaps you and me, Steve, I think when we give this all up, we just knock on the door here.
We'll come and get an apprentice.
We've made a contact, haven't we? You'll get a contact.
Steve's got no knowledge.
Send your CV in.
No anything. Useless.
Picture on the wall, DBR 11. I think that's part of the important history with Richard Stewart Williams and Lord Down. Can you expand on that, Neil?
It was Lord Down's car. He bought it off Aston's after they stopped racing. I think the year after they stopped racing. I think he paid probably £1,000 for it or less at the time. And it was a car that they used on the road quite a lot and raced a bit. Not prepared by us, but raced a bit with his brother, John Dornay. John Dornay, or no, I think it was John Dornay. So they raced the car quite a lot. And then we got involved and prepared it for Michael and ran it in the Lloyd's Scottish, is it?
Lloyd's and Scottish Championship.
And we're very successful with that car. And it was that was a great era. And that car was then looked after until it was sold by us until it was sold at Monterey 5 years ago. And it's now sadly in Canada in a warehouse, not been used since. So
okay.
I'm trying to get it back somehow. That's the idea. So there's DBR 1.1 we looked after, DBR 1.2 we won them all. And that car is not with us. But yeah, one we looked after for many years.
What would you consider to be some of the highlights of your career? Asking you both some memories. If you had to pitch, so it's going to be a tricky one, isn't it?
No. I mean, Le Mans was a huge thing. Never HT was a huge thing. But then the general stuff we did through the sort of 70s, 80s was amazing. Ran so many cars, so many important cars. And we were very successful. We seemed to win a lot. Michael was a fantastic driver. And we had the support, and we raced proper cars. Which was lovely. The DB4s was a great era. I mean, that was a great time. DB4s might have had 12, 15 cars, lightweights on the grid.
Yeah.
And it was a huge, huge thing then for the AMHT to have that sort of events going on.
And are you both excited by the future?
Very much.
Yeah.
And we work so well together. I mean, I've known Jacqueline since she was born.
Careful, yeah.
And so we work very well together. Close friends, and it's brilliant for the business.
Yeah.
The business seems to be working, doesn't it? And
business seems to be working. Yeah, we've got a great team around us. We've got work for the next probably 3 years.
4 years, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic product. I love the Astons. I still, I walk through these workshops all the time, and it's still amazing to me when you walk through them. I still am as passionate about it as I was when I used to go to Brixton and walk through the arches there when I was tiny. So yeah, it's a great thing. And when you get recognised and asked to do things like the track parade that Steve referenced, it makes it all come together.
But you have been, great supporters of the Aston Martin Heritage Trust, the festivals and other events you go to.
You try to support everything.
You try to support everything. You're not resting on your laurels. You still go out there and champion your...
I think we've got a responsibility to the brand and to Heritage Astons. It's not just about us. It's about getting people involved. And also younger people. Yeah, younger people. People don't know what they don't know. And if you can come and drive one of our heritage cars, you'll know the difference between ours and one prepared maybe by somebody else. And then you'll realise. So I think we've got a responsibility in that way.
Perfect. Well, hopefully, Steve, you want to say that?
Well, I mean, it's quite, today I've been visiting RS Williams since 1998, so I've been here many times over the years, but listening to you guys recounting the history again and actually realising that when you restarted after the Le Mans period, that's exactly when I joined. That's as I remember it, really, because I've never known any different other than, RS Williams is an Aston Martin specialist, and in my entire career has been kind of, almost running parallel with the business as it's grown. And I can remember, sticking labels on parts bags and putting bits in to send out to Richard Williams. And then all the other things I've done in my career since then has sort of followed your company growing and doing all these amazing things. And it's really is a cornerstone of the brand, isn't it? It's one of the cornerstones.
Richard retired in 2015 and he sadly died at relatively young age at 76 on 12th of August 2021. How did you, Jacqueline, how did the company, Neil, how did you deal with that, if I can ask?
So that was a really hard time, but he had been out of the day-to-day running of the company for a period by then of 6 years. So in terms of actual work, it didn't affect the day-to-day running. But he was still always at home looking over our shoulder. My accounts office is at home, so he was a constant presence. It was a big shock, but I think our job is to look after the legacy that he started. And going forward, that is what we intend to do. I think his pursuit of perfection and attention to detail is instilled in all of us here, and that will carry on. So exciting times of the future with our own stamp on what he started.
Yeah.
Just protecting the brand and developing the brand and keeping it out there.
Yeah.
And,
And it is very much a brand. I think it is recognised as a brand. If that awful word brand, if you know what I mean, but it can be abused. But
and I think, remember, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be working with these cars and at this company. So
yeah, thank you very much for your time. I much appreciate it. We're going to hopefully go around the workshop with Adam and see what's happening down there. But in the meantime, thank you very much for your time, Neil.
No problem at all.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Growing the passion, sharing the stories. The Aston Martin Heritage Podcast.
Hope you enjoyed this episode, and please do tune in to episode 22, where we do a walkabout through the workshops and the showroom, talking to Adam Johnson and other team members.
Discover more about the story of Aston Martin, the cars, the people, the history with the Aston Martin Heritage Trust. You're always welcome to visit us at our museum in Oxfordshire, so find out more via amht.org.uk.